I'm joined now by Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, the former chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, so many people worried about this and impact already. I know some of this is in the court still, but how concerned are you?
Well, Martha, certainly this is very compelling, and these are obviously, needs that are compelling, and they certainly relate to U.S. interests. And we are going through an issue of changes of administration. But I think certainly, as you were relating in the last interview that you just conducted, the American people know that we're in a financial crisis right now. We have the U.S. Government Accountability Office on February 5th just sent this letter to the President of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House. And it says the federal government is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The unsustainable fiscal outlook poses serious economic, security, and social challenges if it's not addressed. The report attached indicates that by 2027, we'll be at a historical ratio of debt to the economy, and the rounded deficit is $36 trillion. The American public know this is not sustainable. That's just in this congressional session. In 2 years, we will be at a critical point, and obviously, very tough decisions have to be made, and they need to be made now.
Is this the way to make those decisions? There's no doubt you can look at the budget. You can look at places where things have been cut. There's some alarming anecdotes that they put out there that things are in the budget. But is this the necessary and appropriate way to do this, given what you're just hearing from around the world?
Well, I think what you're hearing is that this administration is taking a critical view right now. I mean, we have a continuing resolution that goes through March, and this administration is taking an immediate assessment of where are we spending our funds and where do we need to spend them. And in order to do so, they need to take a stop. They need to take a critical view. The American public know that their monies are being spent around the world, and they need to determine how they need to be spent in the way that advances U.S. interests.
But you talk about,
and do so in a way that we can balance the budget so that we can not have this debt to ratio at the end of 2027. That's just in 2 years. That is absolutely, as they say just here, an unsustainable fiscal path.
You talk about assessment or review and look at this, and they're trying to figure this out. They basically took the sign down off USAID. They basically want to close it down. Is that really a review, an assessment?
Well, USAID is a unique situation, because not only is it one where they're doing a fiscal review, how should the money be spent, where should we be spending our money, but it's also a policy review. And on a foreign policy aspect, and certainly you've heard this from the Secretary of State, I mean, we have been on a structural issue where we have diffused our foreign policy. We've had USAID that has been separate from really the ambassador structure and our embassy structure. Commerce has been separate. DOD has been separate. Taking a view where how do we merge these back so we have one voice in foreign policy? Instead of USAID doing something, our foreign policy and ambassadors doing something, DOD doing something, Commerce doing something. How do we get back to one voice where we advance America instead of everybody doing their own thing in foreign policy is probably a good policy.
But you yourself have said Elon Musk's actions are disruptive. He's acting like a bull in a china shop. So let me go back to before.
He's very disruptive. First off, let's be clear. USAID is not a criminal enterprise, and people who work for the government have an important job to do, and they need to be honored. And certainly, as Elon Musk goes about his job, which is a very important job. I mean, the fact that we have Elon Musk looking from the private sector into the public sector, advising the president in ways that we can find ways to reduce overall spending, to get this curve down, is incredibly important and an unbelievable opportunity for our government and for President Trump to do what the American public elected him to. He needs to, in a more professional way, to communicate with the American public and certainly communicate to the government enterprise a professional goal and objective.
You heard Chris Murphy, Senator Murphy, just now say that China might fill the vacuum in places that USAID leaves. Is that a concern of yours?
No, I don't believe that they're going to do so. They're not going to come in and start providing aid of this nature. They don't have the heart for it. They don't have the goals and objectives for it. This is not what they do. It is what we do because we have compassion. Not only do we do it on a government basis, we even do it on a philanthropic basis. But let's be clear, also to counter what the senator just said, we do not have a constitutional crisis. What we're doing right now is the executive branch is trying to get control over the executive branch. Unfortunately, sometimes on the left, they view the bureaucracy as a fourth branch of government and that it's not to be touched. In this instance, we have Elon Musk and the President of the United States going over to the bureaucracy and saying, we're going to tame you. We're going to pull you back under the executive branch. We're going to look at ways in which we can find savings. And we're going to bring this spending curve down. And in doing so, the left believes that they have violated that fourth branch. We're going to bring it back under the executive branch. We're going to bring that spending down, as the American public believe. I think the American public believe that government is not responsive, that no one can tame it. We're going to see that President Trump and Elon Musk are going to bring that curve down.
And I want to turn to Gaza and Israel. We saw those images of the 3 hostages that were released this weekend looking terribly gaunt, having Hamas fighters next to them. Will that make any difference, do you think, with the ceasefire going forward? But I also want to talk to you about President Trump's pledge to take over Gaza, which he really doubled down on this week.
You know, one thing that this has done is it certainly has exposed the issue that the two-state solution isn't a plan and isn't a proposal, it's a slogan. Because no one came forward and said this is disruptive or provocative to our two-state solution. I mean, there's no one who's the leader of it. There's no structure for it. There's no one who's working on the governance structure for West Bank.
But do President Trump's comments help?
I think it does pose the challenge of focusing on the fact that Hamas and the Palestinians and the terrorist structure that's there needs to be dismantled, that Israel does deserve and need a peaceful structure, that the Palestinians, regardless of where they are, pose a security threat. That there is no path to a two-state solution. No one is currently working toward it. The fact that there is no alternative, I think, really light has been shined on it, and it's going to really challenge, I think, the entire region and really the international community to say, well, really, what are we doing? And they're going to be challenged to do something.
Lots of outrage over those comments from President Trump, though. Thanks so much for joining us,
Thank you.
Congressman.